unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'm learning that in 2014, Abbott deliberately and successfully tried to weaken bacteria-tested safety standards. The FDA, I would just say, I have to give them credit. In 2014, they issued a proposed rule that would increase regular safety inspections of infant formula manufacturing facilities and to prevent this kind of problem, the contamination of infant formula. That failed to happen.
Hello and welcome to Hysteria. I'm Erin Ryan.
And I'm Alyssa Mastromonaco.
Another week.
Another dumpster fire.
Another steaming pile of no thank you. What do you want to talk about? Let's be loosey-goosey about this. We've got two interviews that are covering some important issues that we would normally talk about in news. I don't know, do you want to talk about the primaries?
The primaries were yesterday, Tuesday. Yeah. I guess like fairly expected, right? The people who supported Donald Trump won. Though it's like, it was really like, I felt like we're in this place where the news is still just like, and by news I mean cable, is like just grappling for drama and for, and it's like, no, there's no, I don't care.
I have no bandwidth for political drama right now. None.
Guess what? I watched it last night. People won, people lost. It was fine.
Yeah. I think that right now is not the time, guys. We don't have the time to get invested emotionally in a primary race in North Carolina, although it does feel nice to see Madison Cawthorn experience a consequence.
It does. It does.
The real cocaine orgies were inside all of us all along. I don't know. One thing that I did think was interesting that I wanted to flag was an actual crazy person won the Republican primary for governor in Pennsylvania. That was after, though, Democrats actually helped him campaign.
Well, how did that happen?
Josh Shapiro, who is the Democratic nominee for governor in Pennsylvania, and Democrats in Pennsylvania helped Mastriano win. According to Playbook this morning, they view him as the easiest Republican to defeat in general. So they spent, the Shapiro campaign spent $840,000 to air a spot that attacked Mastriano with the intent of riling up the right, apparently. They called him one of Donald Trump's strongest supporters, which to like, people who vote in GOP primaries are interested in that for sure. It's a risky thing for them to do, to basically say like, yeah, actually, we're glad that this guy won and we don't mind that we helped him win. I think it's risky because this guy is actually a crazy person. But, if that's what it takes to win, then, cool. I hope that their gamble pays off because a lot is riding. Lots riding on this, guys.
This one backfired. It's a fucking problem.
Yeah, if that one backfired, people should lose their jobs and not be allowed to work in politics for a specific period of time.
The Looney Tune Republican that won is like Mastriani, I think is his name. So a former Republican congressman, was talking about Mastriani running against Josh Shapiro, the Democrat in Pennsylvania for governor. And he said that, stand by.
Mastriano. Oh, that's so close to Mastromonaco.
Mastriano. Thank you, Caroline. Maybe that's why I couldn't. So anyway, this Republican congressman said that Mastriano, that Shapiro would beat Mastriano in a Republican caucus. That's how crazy this guy is. So I was like, oh, okay, that's good. Josh Shapiro seems like a very good guy, so that's great.
Yes, but our listeners in Pennsylvania, among which are my in-laws, I know that they're not going to be complacent because the people who listen to the show are not complacent people.
No.
But definitely do not get comfortable with an actual crazy person running for a major state office, because I believe that Pennsylvania has a Republican legislative chamber. It's been gerrymandered into being very Republican. And so it's one of those states that if Roe were to fall, which it probably will, where a Republican governor and Republican legislature could definitely make abortion care inaccessible for all of the people in Pennsylvania. So we cannot elect Republican governors anymore. We're not doing that anymore. We're showing up and we're voting for a Democrat or a progressive we are making sure that Republicans do not win gubernatorial races, because that's real dangerous in a post-Roe world for sure. You got to show up. I'm trying to think of what else is interesting. I'm sort of over the media extrapolation of like the national mood, or like whether Trumpism is
totally.
based on like local political action. I find it to be so tiresome. And I also sort of hate the Trump scorecard, even though
I agree.
it does feel good to like watch him not be right about things and be like immediately like he tried to back this candidate and this candidate lost or whatever. And it's nice to see him be incorrect, but also like, who fucking cares? The guy has not done a single thing except hold rallies since he's been president. He hasn't even launched a successful social media company. Like, he's got all the clout in the world and he still can't do jack shit with it. So I just, the obsession with the Trump scorecard is I'm going to say it's a real turnoff for me.
It's a turnoff. And also it's also fake, because it's like the scorecard, what does it really mean? Because all of the Republicans who are winning are still like espousing these fucking terrible, crazy things. It's not like his candidates aren't winning because nice, thoughtful Republicans are winning. It's like they're all still just a basket of crazy. It's just whether or not his actual stamp was on the said basket of crazy. So it's still bad.
Yeah, it's still bad. But we can't tell how everyone in the country is feeling based on how, like, what, tens of thousands of Republicans voted on in a random district in North Carolina or in Ohio or whatever. I hate that. And yeah, it all seems so, the castle intrigue aspect of it all just seems so incredibly almost boring and like almost obscene against the backdrop of other news stories that are happening.
Yeah,
like
totally.
And we're going to get to those with some interview guests and in our panel discussion, like I said. But like the formula shortage, the racially motivated shooting in Buffalo, there's all of these things that like should matter more and do matter more, and are more important to discuss right now than like, was Madison Cawthorn nice when he conceded his primary race? Like,
no one cares.
Like, fuck that guy, first of all, but also like, yes. I'm offering like a tepid, dismissive, like, fuck that guy. Like, move along, please. There are
we got bigger fish to fry.
Bigger fish to fry, indeed. And in that spirit, let's take a quick break and get to some of the more important issues of the week. First, we've got an interview with Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro, and we've got Bethenny Frankel, who has been very active helping out the people of Ukraine. Today, we're excited to welcome back one of our favorite repeat guests. She currently serves Connecticut's 3rd District and has since 1991. She's the chair of the House Appropriations Committee and a founding member of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, a leader on the fight to end child poverty, and she's got a new hair color, folks. Welcome, Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro.
Thank you so much, Erin. It's wonderful to join you and Alyssa. Can I tell you the story of my hair coloring?
Absolutely. Always.
It's very, very simple. I just haven't gotten around to get back to the hairdresser to get it, redone with my purple hair. So this is the growing out of the of the purple hair coloring. So I love it, though. I like the color, so we'll see.
It's cool.
It's a delightful turquoise.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's like silvery mermaid.
Oh
blue.
my God.
Yes, she's a mermaid, everybody.
Well, I wish we had you here under better circumstances, but this is an issue that I know that you have been leading the conversation on in Washington, and so we wanted you here to talk about this. In February, Abbott Nutrition, whose products account for 48% of the market share of baby formula, voluntarily recalled some of its products after some babies came down with a rare bacterial infection. That was February. It's May. And parents in the U.S. are dealing with a crisis. So parents and watchdogs have been ringing the alarm bell on this for months about the coming formula shortage and, things are about to get bad. What the hell happened, and why did lawmakers and regulators take so long to act?
Well, it really is the heart of the question here, Erin. And let me, if I can, just give you a little bit of a time frame, because we have an issue here. There are two related issues. One is the shortage of the product. The other is the issue of food safety. And how are they tied together? The accuracy is Abbott Nutrition, as we found out, knowingly sold a contaminated product, infant formula. And what we also found out, because, and I'm going to give you a timeline. In September, the Food and Drug Administration visited the plant, and they had suspicions of contamination at that moment. Subsequent to that, a whistleblower, and I was tipped off to the whistleblower, and the whistleblower did a report in October that went to the Food and Drug Administration. The Food and Drug Administration, and I made that report public at a hearing as soon as I knew, I didn't know about it until just a few weeks ago, and I made that a public document. The whistleblower was not interviewed until December. In January, the FDA went into the plant again, and they found contamination. February is the recall of the product. So we have been tracking this action since the recall. But even what I immediately responded in terms of asking for an Inspector General report early in March, and I had no idea about a whistleblower's report at that time. I responded to the recall. I responded to what information we had at the time, because I should have started with this. Can you imagine? You have a newborn, you have an infant, you're feeding them, you're looking at formula, and you go out, you buy a product, and at least 2 babies died. Several are hospitalized. And then not only now you can't get the product, but you've got that feeling that, my God, am I putting my baby at risk? Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be that parents are caught in this situation. So I've been tracking it since the recall. In March, I asked for an Office of the Inspector General to do a report on the bad actors in this. And I would say both, we've got Abbott and we got an FDA did not move. In April, I made the whistleblower report public. In May and tomorrow, there's a hearing with the director of the FDA who's coming in on his budget, but my line of questioning is going to be on this issue. Next week, on the 25th, we have a panel of experts coming in. I introduced I'm going to introduce legislation that deals with the issue of how do we tighten this process? How do we get to the FDA with new authorities? I introduced, and I'll be on the floor of the House tonight, with a bill that provides the FDA with resources in order for them to deal with the supply chain and in order to be able to provide them with the kinds of staffing they need in order to inspect facilities for safety and also to inspect people who are sending in a submission of wanting to get into the U.S. market on infant formula. So it is. My goal is to deal with the investigations. Long term, where we go from here. Short term, we got to get a product on the market. Mm-hmm. We cannot leave families high and dry, but whatever goes on the market has got to be safe. Mm-hmm. We've got to ensure the safety of this product for families.
Congresswoman, can you tell us in a little greater detail what the legislation you filed yesterday will do for parents and how it will help this terrible process?
Sure. What we're trying to do, as I say, provide them with the ability to deal with, monitoring the supply chain of how we can get product to where it needs to go. In addition to which, I want product to come in from overseas or even from a domestic outlet that has been FDA approved. I do not want to see us go randomly or hears from someone who has not been FDA approved. So what we've tried to do is to provide them with a capacity in terms of personnel and funding for personnel and for inspection teams that can really guarantee that there's a safety of the product, that this is meeting an FDA standard. FDA has a standard. In this instance, they did not hold Abbott to the standard. So it's there, and we need to hold them to the standard. One of the big issues, and we're going to get to this underlying issue, is the consolidation of the market. Mm-hmm. There are only 4 manufacturers of infant formula. And so and Abbott cornered the market. Mm-hmm. And so when you have this kind of a challenge and you take the product off the market, that's about 43% of the market. So that is very, very serious in terms of a shortage. So what trying to do is to deal with the longer term issues, but in the shorter term, to be able to get the FDA to bring in product, and that's what this legislation is pointed at, is to bring in the product from, we have 7 FDA-approved facilities in Europe, and we can move quickly to get those facilities to be providing us with infant formula and get it flown here as quickly as possible.
So earlier this week, the FDA and Abbott reached an agreement to reopen the Michigan plant that was closed, but it's going to take 2 months before those products start hitting the shelves. So, you mentioned that there are parents who are kind of caught in a lurch. In the meantime, what are those parents going to do to get formula between now and when Abbott is back up making formula?
We need to go to other manufacturers at the moment, and there are those in the United States, and it's my understanding that they are working overtime. It is that Abbott has had the largest concentration, and that's something we have to deal with, so that it's not a competitive market; it's a sole source market, and that's crazy. So we're moving to get these facilities to be producing as quickly and as fast as we can. If we have a supply in one place and not in another, how do we quickly get supply so that we're getting it out evenly distributed and distributed in all parts of the country, whether rural areas or underserved areas, etc. And then what I want to see done is what I mentioned before, is that we get the product from those FDA-approved facilities overseas that can help us, again, in the short term to get that product on the market. Because you're right, it's unacceptable to wait 6 or 8 weeks. That consent decree was to get them to be able to get inspectors to go in to make sure that the plant is up to snuff. You have no idea in this whistleblower's report what is out there. Falsified records gave erroneous information to the FDA. Their testing procedure, instead of doing it on the containers that the product is in, they did it on empty bottles so that there wouldn't be any, notion that there was a problem, that it wouldn't be tested. Because in the seams of more than you probably wanted to know, in the seams of the container, the powder can be there and it builds up and it can be contaminated. So they didn't test on those containers. They tested on empty bottles. So they cut corners. The plant was not clean. And, Abbott has had problems in the past with salmonella. And also, which is interesting to note, which is something I just found out this morning, that in 2000, this is unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'm learning that in 2014, Abbott deliberately and successfully tried to weaken bacteria-tested safety standards. The FDA, I would just say, I have to give them credit. In 2014, they issued a proposed rule that would increase regular safety inspections of infant formula manufacturing facilities and to prevent this kind of problem, the contamination of infant formula. That failed to happen. It failed to happen. So I view Abbott as a bad actor.
Yeah.
And we got to get FDA in line to do what they're charged with doing. They're a regulatory agency. We do not produce formula at the federal level. We have manufacturers who do that. They need to be held to the highest standards.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like I can't think of anything more evil than going out of your way to make it so that you can sell contaminated baby formula. And I think that maybe at the end of this, we'll be at a point where somebody should be in jail, maybe.
Feels like that.
My view on this is let's find out who's accountable, and then let's hold them accountable for them wherever that takes us.
Well, Representative DeLauro, I wish that there were like 400 of you in Congress. The people of Connecticut are lucky to have you. Women and families are lucky to have you fighting this fight. Thank you for everything you're doing. We'll definitely be paying attention to this story, and we'll talk to you on the other side of this for sure.
Wonderful. It's so great to see the both of you again. I hope you're well. I hope your families are well. And just thank you so much for what you are doing and shining a light on this important issue.
Take
care.
Congresswoman. Bye-bye. Super excited about this guest. Alyssa, are you excited about this guest?
We're excited. We're very happy that she's here.
She's a self-made business person, a TV producer, a philanthropist, a mother. She's a 5-time New York Times bestselling author, and her newest book, Business is Personal, The Truth About What It Takes to Be Successful While Staying True to Yourself. It's out now. Welcome, Bethenny Frankel.
Thank you.
Bethenny, we're so excited to talk to you about two things today, your activism and aid work, and your new book, Business is Personal, The Truth About What It Takes to Be Successful While Staying True to Yourself. So you've done incredible relief work through your initiative, Be Strong, which is on the ground, helping in the aftermath of everything from the Puerto Rican earthquake, Surfside condo collapse, Bronx building fire, to last year's tornadoes in Kentucky. And now you've raised more than $25 million in aid for Ukraine. Can you
125.
125.
125.
Good
125.
Lord. 25 million would have been impressive. 125 is times 5. Can you talk a little bit about where that money is going and where the inspiration or drive came to engage in crisis work?
Crisis work started back with helping women in crisis when I started Be Strong, helping a group of women at a time, then wanting it to be more immediate, getting into Hurricane Harvey and Puerto Rico and Bahamas and Australia and all over the world. And a big PPE, $20 million effort, 20 million plus effort. So basically it's like a business. You just sort of started with one thing that was important to you and one idea. And then each time something inspires you or motivates you to help, you get involved in that. And the most recent has been Ukraine. It's $125 million effort with my partner, Global Empowerment Mission. They are the logistical arm. I'm sort of the vision and the communicator. And I decide whether we want to actually get involved in each effort. And in this case, we have 2 warehouses that house the $125 million plus in aid. And they function as warehouses for different orgs to come to get what they need for their specific hospitals, orphanages, villages, etc. Then we've had partnerships in refugee relocation and in orphan extraction with a company called Aerial Recovery Group. So we are sort of like a general contractor in relief work in being immediate, efficient, transparent, and just getting things done.
Wow.
Very cool.
Very cool. Millennials have been plagued by so many seismic political and economic events, from 9/11, the recession, and the ongoing pandemic. What's your advice to women who feel like success in their careers and even in their personal relationships isn't where they want it to be?
Well, Gail King the other day said that my book, Business is Personal, is the perfect book for somebody who wants to start a business. And this is so perfectly timed because people are in unrest. They've wanted to do something. Now they've gotten that swift kick that kind of says they have to do something because the business and the life that they knew is no longer. So in some cases, in many cases, that's good because people have been wanting to do something, but they're in their comfort zone and now they're being propelled forward. And this book helps people to navigate what to do when you don't know what to do and where to go and how to do it. And it's a tool book. So you could basically just pull any of these tools in any small decision that you're making or action that you're taking and utilize it. So it's very comforting because it kind of gives you this business dialogue. And I truthfully was not an entrepreneur. I didn't even know what that was. I am just a person who has had different ideas and who has a tremendous work ethic and is very organized and just goes for it and just gets it done and figures it out.
You know, it's interesting that you said like what to do when you don't know what to do. I think that vulnerability is really kind of refreshing when we're talking about business. I think millennial women in business have been shaped by a sort of girl boss culture that a lot of times presents like successful people in business as being so put together and always knowing what to do. And I love that you said sometimes you don't know what to do, and there's a way forward from that. Have you ever identified with the label of the girl boss? And now that there's like a backlash to the phrase girl boss, what would you like female leadership to look like?
Well, first of all, it's graduation season, and the biggest problem is that people think they have to know exactly where to be, and that will stifle you and stick you in some lane that you think you need to stay in to get ahead. You just need to be the best at whatever you're doing and do it to the fullest and not compromise and not think you're better than the job and why am I doing this? You've got to just give everything your all, and you'll learn no matter what you end up doing. Whatever you learn at any job, you could be a dog walker, you could be a barista, you could be picking up poop in the backyard for people. You will learn things that you never realized would be valuable later in your life. So that's the first, just get on the road. I am quoted, I think it was over a year ago, before the big shot, saying I don't like the whole girl, but before it was popular to say it wasn't a thing, I was saying girl, but I don't like that sort of like sassy Instagram eyelash your way out of a problem. It's just very tacky. It's kitschy and it's gimmicky. I don't like gimmicks. So I don't, it's just a gimmick. Girlfriend, I'm a girl bot. Like that's not, that's a high accent. That's not a skill set. That's just a term. So it's not, that's just not for me. It's called like back it up, whatever you want to call it. I don't say mogul. I don't say entrepreneur. I don't say, I say brand as it pertains to the thing that I've built, but not that my personal brand. All these flashy statements that people make are frosting because there's no actual cupcake underneath.
And the cupcake is the best part of the cupcake. The frosting is supposed to elevate it.
Well, I think the frosting is the best part, but you cannot have the frosting without the cupcake. You will not be eating you need a foundation in your house. I may like the wallpaper the best, but without the foundation and the strong bones, there is no wallpaper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. And also, we don't have the word boy boss. So why do we have girl boss?
It doesn't even matter. You have other, it's just bad bitch. It's also obnoxious. It's just the wrong thing. It's the wrong thing.
Bethenny, most of your success in business has happened in your 40s and 50s. And personally, that feels very right to me. Would you have felt equipped to handle such success at a younger age?
Yes, I would have been able to handle success because it's like case law. It's the reason some people grow up earlier because they were like me, because they were basically an adult as a child. So if you have a business at 18 and you make a lot of mistakes, you can't become a seasoned business person just because you're getting older. And even if you've talked to people and read more books, it doesn't mean that you'll know what you're doing. You have to make the mistakes. You have to have the case law. You have to have said, oh, that situation happened, so I won't make that mistake again. Oh, I remember when I did that. I remember when that worked, or when that dynamic with this person. This book is lessons along the way that have folded into this ultimate quilt or cake that is now, still in the process of being made. But I certainly have a lot of institutional knowledge. It doesn't really matter whether I started at 37 to become successful or 24. You just have to get that seasoning. It's like it's like that sourdough that just, if it's over years and years, that starter keeps being put into different loaves of bread, it will eventually taste really textural. A career is layered. I keep saying this. You can do something and you could be very famous and then do something and get canceled because you've really done one thing or been known for one thing. But people who have had layered careers, they've done many different things and there have been many sides to them. It's harder for them to kind of just vanish because they've brought people with them along the way. They've had different successes along the way. This business I've created is built on relationships with partners, with customers, with people. You first are on a show, you connect, you're there, Carrie Bradshaw. Okay. Then you do a relief effort. Then you connect with that person. Then you're on a different type of show, a business show. Then you connect with those people. You bring everybody along. And then you have a really well-seasoned, layered relationship and career that spans the industry, the entertainment industry, the business, that spans different cultures and, geography. So that's the thing that people don't realize with the quick fix. Like, you're not going to be an influencer on TikTok and have like a well-rounded brand or career. That's one element of a long journey. I thought about Jessica Biel. I'm watching this movie Candy. She was on Seventh Heaven. Then she was in all the magazines for having a sexy body. And she plays these amazing, interesting characters, these choices that she makes, because her career is like layered and it's getting more textural. And you don't think of her as Seventh Heaven or the girl in the bathing suit. You think of her now as this person who can play these interesting, flawed characters. So that's how I think about a career.
Right. So like be a Swiss Army knife rather than a paring knife, because
a Renaissance woman.
Right. Yeah. Right. Totally. That's great advice. We get emails from listeners sometimes, or messages on the socials from listeners who are at a point in their careers where they want to make a leap, but they just need that last push. So what would you say to a person who's listening, who is like on the cusp of leaping from something that they're not happy doing to something risky, but that they really want to do? What would your advice be to them to like push them to do that risky thing they've always wanted to do?
Most things don't happen. And I mean the negative, the things that you're most afraid of. The worst case scenario usually doesn't happen. And so what's the worst thing that happens? And for everybody that's different. Listen, if you are supporting 4 children and you need that insurance, I mean, your own situation. I don't tell people to jump out of a plane without a parachute. I don't believe in that. You could also start doing something, really put yourself into your side hustle, and eventually make it your main hustle. And I say that because many people say you can't focus on 2 things at the same time. It is sort of true, but whatever you're wanting to leave, it's probably on autopilot, and you might be able to do that and then do the other thing. I don't know what the 2 things are because every person is unique, but I will say, what's the worst thing? I was in my late 30s. I had no safety net. I had no money. What was I going to do? I was going to go work in a restaurant, like, chopping, or be a hostess, or be a bartender. I would have danced on a pole if I had to support a child. Like, there are things, if you are willing to work the worst case scenario, what is that? And would you go do that? But if you like your safety purgatory nest of, are you a gambler? Do you want that big payoff? And is that going to be bigger than the misery of hitting the bottom? Like, I'm okay with all of it. I was always like, I was at the bottom. So, I mean, I wasn't at the bottom of the poverty. I wasn't at the bottom of the poverty line. But in my life, I couldn't afford to take a taxi. I bounced checks. I mean, it wasn't that cute at 37. I wasn't, and I didn't have anybody's any parents' couch to sleep on. So for me, I went low. It was low for me. It was scary, but like nothing ventured, nothing gained. That dream that I overshot, you got to think about all ends of it. If you're going to make an investment, you got to think about what if the shit hits the fan and it doesn't happen. You can't be that person that like, it's definitely going to happen. You just don't know, but you can feel in your gut if you've got a great idea, if you've got something, if you know you're special and you work harder than anybody else and you've got that thing, you know it, you know how you thrive, you got to go. You got to just go because what is the worst thing that can happen? If you're willing to do whatever it takes to support your family, and that's the only situation. If you don't have a family and you're single, then you have to do it. Like if you're on your own and you have nobody else to support, then I don't even want to hear it. Go do it. Go do it. You're young. If you're under 35 and you don't have kids to support, go do it. It's when you're 48 years old and you've got a kid and you've got a divorce and you've got bills and you got, problems. That's when you have the thought to have. But if you're young and you don't have a lot of responsibilities, then there's no reason. So what? You have a few pairs of shoes left, you go broke, you'll figure it out.
Wow. Bethenny, you made me want to quit a job that I haven't had since I was like 27 years old. I'm like, I'm going to march into my boss's office and quit. It's like, oh, I haven't worked in an office since the year 2011. But I quit that job retroactively in 2009 now because of that pep talk. Bethenny Frankel, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for everything you're doing for people in Ukraine.
Of course.
It has been
Thank
really
you.
inspiring to watch you, get your message out there and really be vocal on this issue. It's been really cool to see.
Thank you. Yay. Well, thanks for having me.